All right.
Me, that's who.
Steve would. Steve always thinks of that.
Not me, others.
One thing we did want to talk about with Whispers in the Wall is story skip.
Hey all, Siege here, and well today, I want to present a bit of an unorthodox video, but one addressing some of the comments made during DevStream 174 referencing a bit of a controversial potential move in offering a pay-to-skip aspect of the story narrative for the upcoming Whispers in the Wall update. Giving new players a method of playing it without having to go through the entire grind that would have most likely been required to get whatever vehicles or abilities that will be needed for the quest. And while I'm not big into getting into controversies regarding the game, this one is specifically story related and actually ties into something I wanted to address anyhow, so I figured I'd offer not only my opinion, but a solution I think may satisfy the majority of the player base while still giving DE a good starting point for new players and allowing them to make a little money too. After all, while this is a video game most of us truly love and enjoy, it's also a business. It's just the reality of it. And it just so happens that I've actually taken the time to go back and create multiple characters in the last few months in order to gain access to cinematics that I lost the footage for, specifically on quests that aren't replayable anymore, after originally creating my first character back in 2016. So I understand the grind required both then and now. And you know, after doing all this a couple times now, I realized that one of the things I found so fun about the new war specifically, considering all the time I had spent grinding outstanding in parts for Necromechs and Railjacks and Lieutenant and Warframes and even Archwings, all coming together in different facets of the story in a necessary kind of way, one that in my opinion all made sense for each part of the quest, never really feeling shoehorned in, if you will, making it quite varied, complex, and in the end highly replayable because of all that. And I can vouch for that last part in particular, as I've personally replayed the new war over 10 times now, trying to get footage for these videos and fighting with my capture card each time to not glitch the freaking cinematics. But that's off topic. The point is, it's a really fun quest and one that wouldn't work nearly as well, I don't think, without all of that coming together in the manner it did. But it does require an incredible commitment from the player to get to that point. What's worse is, let's be real, aside from Duviri, most of the content a new player will immediately play.
Stand up. Do you realize your Lotus has sent you to die?
Isn't that great? Hey look, I love Captain Vor too, but if you look at the difference between Vor's Prize and the Duviri Paradox, there is really no comparison, and it shows just how far DE's come. So, from a player experience standpoint, and I think in the same vein a marketing standpoint, the new player would essentially have to play Vor's Prize, Howl of the Kubro, The New Strange, the Limbo Theorem. Remember Archwing interception missions? Yeah, those are real fun. And even the quests you don't have to play don't really matter when you consider the mastery rank required for certain quests, not to mention having to play through the entirety of the star chart, as the Chains of Harrow by itself requires access to Mott in the Void. And that means unlocking each planet node, complete with all the prerequisites that come with that, all the crafting times for different things, be it Necromechs, Archwings, standings from different factions, and much of that stuff that really doesn't matter in the context of what I would guess you would consider the main quest line, that consisting of, aside from the Awakening quest, Nata, the Second Dream, the War Within, the Chains of Harrow, Saya's Vigil, Vox Solaris, the Heart of Deimos, the Apostasy Prologue and the Sacrifice, the Rising Tide, the Prelude to War, the New War, the Duviri Paradox, and you could even probably throw in Angels of the Zeraman as well, and I list out each individual quest to show the sheer amount of content a new player would have to force themselves through just to have everything they would need as far as what was mentioned during the dev stream in order to access Whispers in the Wall. That's a lot of stuff to do, and some of it, well, as I mentioned before, let's just say data doesn't completely cover it. So I can kinda see how that wouldn't necessarily work from literally every logical way possible. And on top of all that, especially with how DE releases new content, not necessarily on any kind of schedule, rather more like a when we get it done kind of way, something I can appreciate, given that's pretty much how I do things as well, but wanting to be able to utilize that new thing, in this case the Whispers in the Wall quest, not just for the quest itself, but for the lessons learned from previous updates and the like, as a method of bringing in new players, is a golden opportunity for the game and for the business that is Warframe, especially if it's really good. So, something has to be done, especially considering this problem will only get worse as time moves on. Now, their original solution,
And I don't want to say the preferred path, but when you approach Warframe, if you install it when Whispers in the Wall launches, you have 10 years of content to play. We obviously are trying to remove a lot of grind there. The necromechs have never been easier to build. The last Dagoth update has pages and pages of what type of barriers we're moving. But sometimes that's still not enough for people that don't want to invest time and they just want to skip. So what we are doing, or hoping to do, currently it's in the testing and implementation phase, is implement a story skip for Platinum. So basically what you would do is, if you wanted to just play Whispers in the Walls and you didn't want to do all of the things that came before it, there is going to be a path for you to use Platinum to basically get your account ready for Whispers in the Walls. So if you have a friend that you want to play Whispers with, it's Platinum, so it's giftable, so we're trying to treat it in a way that you can get your friends caught up.
giving a new player all the tools they would need. Necromechs, Arcwings, Railjacks, I'm guessing some mods and some weapons as well. It's tough to say given all the stuff that Tenno uses, companions, arcanes, the operator's focus schools, and personally I don't see a way to do it and have Whispers in the Wall make any sense whatsoever as a starting point, because there's just too much preceding it, and more importantly, Warframe's story is very subjective. They made the comment regarding the implementation of a kind of story of Warframe up to this point, and given all the excessively vague aspects of the overall narrative, let's just say I'm very curious to see what's included in that story recap, because if it doesn't read like a novel, it's probably going to lose a ton of nuance, most of which is the reason why these quests are so great in the first place. Further, it does in some ways devalue the time, and I think most Warframe players who have been through it would say the investment in the game that makes it so special. Kind of like the idea of an easy mode in Dark Souls. You really do lose the experience in the end. But, like the man said,
I don't know. We're living in a material world and I am a material girl. Or boy.
So, this material boy had a method by which, well, let's say I think everyone can win. I believe a new player should be able to choose what I would consider the Drifter's path. The Drifter's path would be much different from the Tenno's because they wouldn't have the experiences the Tenno would have within the Origin system. Given that the Duviri Paradox is already available as a new player activity, the Drifter path would consist of the Duviri Paradox, then the New War, and then everything forward, offering the new player access to what I would consider are Warframe's two premier experiences, precluding the new Whispers in the Wall quest. At that point, much like the decision the Drifter is given at the end of Duviri, where they can stay there or head to the Origin system, they can decide to complete the Tenno's journey in a kind of time travel aspect, if you will, allowing the Drifter to experience the Tenno's life up to that point in the same way the Tenno can with the Drifter in Duviri, giving the new player access to the new content almost right away, and then having the choice to continue on with the Tenno if they so choose. To me, this seems like the easiest solution to a problem that D will continue to have to deal with until something changes, but in the interim, it gives a new player a pretty interesting experience that, for all intents and purposes, actually makes sense within the context of the Warframe universe and addresses the problems being faced. Now, there's obviously the issue of the actual pay part of all this, and to me, the idea of paying to get past all that, while I get from a business sense, is good, it's unfortunately pay to skip. And that skip would include some of the best stuff DE has already created, which I feel is a great disservice as some of that stuff is really good. Further, it would make the story even more convoluted, if that's even possible, making a firm understanding of what happened really difficult given the order in which things would be presented if Whispers in the Wall becomes something the new player can access immediately. That being said, you can also already buy a lot of this stuff with Platinum to begin with, so I have to admit I was taken aback a bit at the immediate backlash.
There is going to be a path for you to use Platinum to basically get your account ready for Whispers in the Walls. So if you have a friend that you want to play Whispers with, it's Platinum, so it's giftable, so we're trying to treat it in a way that you can get your friends caught up. I know there's a lot of no, so let's talk about why, because I don't want to screw it up. So it sounds horrible. Pay to skip, hate that. Bye, L. Yeah, let's see. Pay to skip, that doesn't spark joy. Poor choice. What? skip L. Oh, that's not good. Well, I kind of expected that, so we'll have to think of a way to do it. But is there I play a game where I paid to story skip for some things, but I can see that this might not go over so well. So we'll probably have to reconsider aspects of it a little bit.
Personally, I've said for some time that I feel the grind to get things like weapons and Warframe slots, either through farming items for platinum or forcing yourself to utilize something like Nightwave in order to minimize the need for real-world money, is incredibly tedious. And you can already buy ways to increase affinity. You can buy these weapon slots, you can buy Warframe slots, you can buy Arcwings, you can buy Necromechs, you can buy Warframes and weapons and companions. So again, I'm not sure where the hate is coming from, so maybe you can help me understand that argument a little bit better in the comments. But to me at least, having a one-time payment option, giving you some extra slots for new frames and weapons, a basic Necromech, Arcwing, and Railjack with maybe some other little additions like an affinity or credit booster, sounds like a fantastic way to allow players who are willing to pay that money, especially in conjunction with the drifter path I described above. Probably the easiest way of keeping all that content relevant while at the same time allowing new players a unique way into the game, offering two different methods of playing Warframe and really seeing the universe from two extremely different perspectives. In the end, there would literally be two different forms of Tenno in our world. Those who experienced the child's journey first, and those who opted to take the drifter's path instead. Now, I understand I probably upset some of you regarding my stance on the current pay-to-skip controversy, and I can confidently say that if this stuff wasn't already available for Platinum to begin with, I would have a very different take on this. But as it is, just bundling much of that together into one purchase, to me at least, just makes sense. But, for you purists out there, I have another option. For this drifter's path, during the New War, is it not possible to just have them utilize the same basic Necromech, Railjack, and Arcwing, but for just that quest only? And maybe do the same thing for Whispers in the Wall. Like how empty Necromechs are just hanging around on Deimos already, as kind of a method for doing this full scale. Once these players continue into the Tenno part of their playthrough, having already completed Duviri, the New War, and Whispers in the Walls, they could grind all that stuff after the fact and get their own version of it, and in the end, no one's time or commitment is lessened, all while allowing the new player to access the newest content right away, increasing the favorability of Warframe in the public space, and maybe making DE some money too, with everybody happy, because that's what we all want, right? The game to succeed? Also, it really does give the New War a completely different feel for certain people. When most of us played the quest originally, it was the Drifter's presence that had us shaking our heads the entire time. But now, it will be the opposite. Something I think just works so perfectly with the way the story is already being told, and again, addressing nearly every issue present. But what do you think? Do you hate this idea? I really feel like if looked at objectively for the good of everyone involved, this works and doesn't really require much in the way of changes, aside from whatever decisions DE may make with the necessary vehicles and systems. But I guess we'll see. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed this impromptu video and it got you thinking about the game as a whole and how, well, new players are essential for a game to continue to be relevant. So maybe you can let me know how you do it instead in the comments if you feel you have a better solution. At any rate, I hope you have a wonderful day today, a wonderful rest of your week. I'll talk at you on the next one. Take care, everybody. Bye.